Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Waters Above. We have an important week ahead of us with this precarious monthly close for the traditional markets in October and kicking off this new month of November right away with an FOMC meeting later today. So in today's video, I'll be reviewing the charts of the stock market as well as the crypto market for a comprehensive overview of what I'm expecting next and sharing exactly how I'll be playing this market during this crucial month of November leading into an election year. You're not going to want to miss a moment of this. Today's video will be absolutely packed with value. And also, just a reminder, the new month has started over on Patreon. If you've been waiting to join, I appreciate your support. You could sign up today by visiting patreon.com/watersabove to join the Mastermind community membership and get instant access to my weekly Red Pill podcast. That's my technical analysis podcast to wrap up the week and for me to review the altcoins that our community votes on. And by becoming a Patreon supporter, you'll also get access to our Discord server for our community group chat, so you could come hang out with the Wolfpack, and also have full access to my entire Livestream Archive with over 100 live streams. The Patreon link can be found in the description box of this video and in the pinned comment below. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, Numerology, and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when these videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow our community. And with that being said, let's take the clear pill. So as mentioned moments ago, today Federal Reserve Chair Powell will speak at the FOMC meeting, so expect volatility at the opening bell and throughout this trading week. And we're finally here in the 44th week of this year, and we've been talking about this time frame here on this channel for the past couple months, with the significance being eclipse season. And we just had this lunar eclipse over the weekend, and I have some gems to share with you all today regarding what to expect for this market during this month of November. And in my last video, I revealed my expected Bitcoin ETF date sometime between November 13th and 17th, coming very soon. So check that out if you haven't already. That video was packed with gems. And one other date connection to consider is this upcoming Friday, November 3rd, tied back to March 10th of this year, the day Silicon Valley Bank failed. And if we take from March 10th, 2023 to this Friday, you're going to see that including the end date, that's 239 days. It's a little bit more esoteric, but 239 is your 52nd prime number, and that ties specifically to this year that we're in using Chinese zodiac being the year of the rabbit, and we have that 52 right there. Again, 239, 52nd prime, tied to the code of 52. And this is very important because specifically we talk about cryptocurrency, and that's another 52 that we get. You can also see that the standard date numerology of this date of Friday, November 3rd is 12 date numerology, just like rabbit gives you 12 in Chaldean. This also happens to be the 307th day of the year. So again, a little bit more esoteric. 307 is your 63rd prime number. I want you guys to remember this because we're going to be talking about this for a little bit during today's decode, and it's going to give you more of an insight into my methodology, my decoding system. 307 is your 63rd prime. We want to mirror that number 63. We always mirror, we never mimic. Some of the rules of alchemy. Well, this 36 is now 3 6s, 666. And did anyone notice how in that movie, The Truman Show, that Truman lives at the address 36? Again, 3 6s, 666. This is important because this also ties back to another layer of all of our system, which is the periodic table, the 36th element being krypton, from the Greek kryptos, meaning hidden or secret. This is the origin of the word crypto, but nothing is hidden. They literally call it blockchain, chain to the block, chain to the cube. That's Saturn's cube, made by Satoshi. Let this gnosis and awareness set you free. So this 307 date connection, I feel, is significant because it's a little bit more deep with the Esoterica, but I feel that you're all seeing how this comes together when we just use some of the basics. 307 being your 63rd prime, you're going to mirror that. That's 36, 3 sixes. And since the World Series is the talk of the town right now, if the Diamondbacks were to win tonight, it would go to a game 6, which lands on this date that we're talking about, Friday, November 3rd, all tied back to the 666 code. Funny enough, today's birth card, being the 1st of November, is your 6 of diamonds. We're talking about the sixes. So we'll see how this goes for the Arizona Diamondbacks. The 6 of diamonds is the 32nd card in the deck. That's 3-2, or we mirror that and it gives you 2-3, which would be the record between both teams if the Diamondbacks were to win tonight. The Rangers would be up 3-2 in the series, going to a game 6 on November 3rd, the date that we're decoding, which also happens to be in the Cards of Illumination, a diamond date. And we're talking about the Diamondbacks. I'm very curious to see how this all goes with this connection I made of November 3rd being the 307th day of the year. Again, the 63rd prime number, the mirror of 36, especially since this has connections directly to the code of the Texas Rangers, the team that's going to be playing tonight against the Diamondbacks. And we could see this 36 code in Texas Rangers because it has 151 in basic Gematria. 151 is your 36th prime number. And a hidden gem here is this 39 that we're getting in Chaldean, because that would be 3-9, and November is Novem, which in Latin means 9. So technically, this date written internationally would be 3-9. You can see how this is a little more esoteric, but this is going to make your decoding a lot more powerful. Not necessarily just talking about sports, but just in general. And here on this channel, a lot of you are well aware that I don't even watch sports, but I decoded the Super Bowl this year and the Super Bowl before that. I also decoded the NBA Finals this year, and our system is very holistic, adding in Chinese zodiac, numerology, gematria, all these other layers to make sense of what's happening here. And you could go about this system in a way that could help you determine how markets will behave. And that's definitely something that most people are focused on here. So I just wanted to share this idea because it's a little bit more esoteric and it could help you see deeper into the code. Again, this 39 tied to the Texas Rangers. November is Novem in Latin. That's 9, third day, 9-3, 3-9, 3-9. You see where we're going with this. And also, some of you might have already picked up that Texas Rangers equals 52, and we're in the year of the rabbit equals 52. And we have Ra for Rangers, Ra for rabbit. Sun symbolism. This whole World Series is happening after a very powerful solar eclipse, which was ritualized beforehand with the 50th year anniversary of the Yom Kippur War and what is going on right now in Israel. So this is how the world works, and sports are definitely coded into it. As sick as that sounds, that's just the truth. And the truth sucks, but the truth sets you free. I find that this code is very fascinating. So we'll have to see, because in my decode, I actually picked the Diamondbacks to win the World Series in Game 7 on November 4th. So we'll know after today if they advance in the series or if they get defeated by the Texas Rangers. Regardless, a very interesting code and symbolism for both teams. And if you're interested in my 2023 World Series Decoded, that's available now over on my Patreon for the Mastermind Community membership at patreon.com/watersabove. Again, the month just started. You're going to be getting so much value by joining that membership, not just that decode, but that decode was built off of some of the information that I have in my last full-length decode presentation titled The Great American Eclipse Decoded, which is a part 1 in the series that'll be coming up with a part 2 soon in preparation for the eclipse that we'll have on April 8th of 2024. And that is so crucial. And I'll be talking about that more definitely as the months progress. So now that we brought up the date of November 4th a moment ago for a potential Game 7 date, we're going to move on from sports now and get back to this market. If we didn't include this end date, we would also come back to that 239 connection that we started this all with. 239, and you could see that being a powerful prime number, 52nd prime, and we're in the year of the rabbit, giving you that 52, and we're talking about cryptocurrency, giving you 52, and this 239 being your 52nd prime, this landing on a Saturday. Saturday crypto will be trading alone since it's the weekend. That's why it could be important for us specifically here on this channel. But that's just one connection. Another being tied to the end of this Jubilee, which we've talked about a lot on this channel up until about a couple months ago. Then we've sort of moved on from it because we've been focusing on that for over a year and a half now. It's great that we've moved on. We don't have another Shemitah until a couple more years, and it's going to be nice to have that break in between. Trust me, we have 2021 all the way moving over to 2028. It's a lot of time between now and then for one last bull run. And I hope that you're all aware of this, that these cycles for Bitcoin and the blockchain halving and what's going on with election years and everything, it's all baked in. It's all pre-programmed. It's an algorithm. And it's up to us to just realize the patterns so that we could be on the right side of the play. So getting back to this connection with Rosh Hashanah and the Jubilee, Hebrew New Year, etc., we have the 16th of this year of September, and it's tied to November 4th by 49 days. And that's literally our super Shemitah number that comes back to Jubilee. 49 is 7 squared, 7 sevens, which is directly tied to the concept of Jubilee, because Jubilee is 7 cycles of 7 Shemitah years for a total of 49 years, and on the 50th year, they practice biblical Jubilee. So this made me think to go one step further and take from the actual last day of Jubilee, which was September 17th, and move it over 50 full days tied to that Jubilee number, and we'd have Monday, November 6th. And since this is a Monday, that means the traditional markets will be open and everything will be trading together. And that's why I feel this date specifically has more power and overall just a lot more liquidity moving on this particular day compared to the Saturday beforehand. Now, why this is so fascinating is because November 6th happens to be the day leaving 55 days in this year. And that ties us back to Satoshi Nakamoto, giving you those 55s right there in multiple ciphers. And moments ago, we were speaking about the 7 cycles of 7 and the power of the number 7 numerologically. Well, November 6th, the date that we're talking about, is effectively 7 months after Satoshi's last birthday. And connecting November 6th of this year to Satoshi's next birthday on April 5th of 2024, this is where it gets exciting because Satoshi will be turning 49 years old. Again, this is a mythology, but it's important that you realize this mythology and the age of this mythological being plays into the price of Bitcoin. I talked about it in my last YouTube video and many others, so definitely check them out and take notes because this mythology is what runs the market. So getting back to this idea that Satoshi's turning 49 is 7 sevens, that's the super Shemitah for Satoshi. The Shemitah concept is Saturnian. Satoshi is Saturn, which makes me confident that this will be an epic bull run for not only Bitcoin, but the whole blockchain sector regarding anything that comes out. So just to stay on track here and not go in too many different directions, why this is so powerful, the fact that these two dates are connected, is because I told you this date is effectively 7 months after Satoshi's last birthday, and it's leading into the 49th birthday, particularly by a code. And it's 2 things I'm going to reveal. Earlier, we brought up this November being 9. Well, this would be the 9/6 date 9-6 or 6-9. Just like on the 69th day of this year, Silicon Valley Bank failed. So we have this day being 9-6, and Satoshi's 49th birthday happens to land on the 96th day of 2024. Again, that would be super significant considering Bitcoin's current all-time high is 69,000. We've seen this 6996 code play out a lot, not only in crypto, but on the world stage. And we definitely have to pay attention to it regarding retail banking and banking as a whole, because what's going on with interest rates right now is not looking too pretty. So we can see this is significant, 96 connection, and we're just talking about November being 9-6 date. So it's working like a ripple effect in both directions, like a ripple effect of time. We definitely have to consider this specific date of November 6th as a potential breakout day for Bitcoin. Now, perhaps Bitcoin hits 36,000 on November 6th since it's 151 days before Satoshi's next birthday, because 151 is your 36th prime number. Remember before we were talking about the 63rd prime number and the mirror of that? This is incredible. And we've seen this 36 before too in, for instance, Ethereum. We could see that 36 in Chaldean. We know that 36 is powerful. 36th element is krypton, where we get the word kryptos. Got to pay attention to this stuff. So 151 days between November 6th, esoterically the 9-6 date, and the 96th day of next year, which lands on Satoshi's super Shemitah birthday, and that 151 being the 36th prime, connecting it all together. It would be wild if Bitcoin hits 36,000 on that date, but we're keeping that in mind. So anyways, let's get into the traditional markets since we have this upcoming FOMC meeting, and then we'll circle back to Bitcoin and crypto in a little. And I want to start off today's analysis considering the monthly close that just came in for the stock market. So we're going to be heading over to the NASDAQ. I feel like this is important. Tech sector has so much money floating around it right now. We saw some big corrections into the monthly close for Apple and Tesla. So we're going to be touching base on the NASDAQ specifically because we have a lot to get into with that recent monthly close that we just had, which wasn't a normal monthly close. It was also a bi-monthly close, and it will be opening up today. This candle will be opening up today with this FOMC meeting. So it's big stuff. We had about a 7% correction on this bi-monthly candle. That's why when I started off the video, I said that was a very precarious monthly close, because you can see that this technically does look like a topping out structure, which is a bull trap lower high. That's just for now though. Again, we're moving into an election year, so we need to think about all of these other things, the machinations of these markets. So taking it one step at a time, this structure is very typical to return back to the 8 simple moving average. I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to turn off the drawings to just keep this clear. This yellow moving average is the 8 simple, and right now that's sitting at about 13,120 as we're filming. Remember, the bottom of the golden pocket on this macro pull is sitting somewhere around 14,000 points. So anything below that 14,000 point level would be breaking us out of what looks like this bull flag that's been in play. I'm not going to call it that just yet, but that is the pattern, and that pattern's effectively been trading now for 140 days. So it's not short term by any means. These lower high rejections and these lower low supports that are holding do look like a flag pattern. So just keep that in mind. But we want to think about all of the technicals here. So we have the bottom of the golden pocket sitting at 14,000 points. And moments ago, I was just talking about a potential retest of the 8 simple moving average, which is below that. Now, we're talking about bi-monthly candles here, so we don't have another open until moving into the beginning of the year. That means that we could have this whole move go down within this month of November and get bought right back up. I want you to keep that in mind. Now, let's move over to the monthly close for the NASDAQ. Let me turn off these drawings again. And you can see something important here. Not only is this the 3rd red monthly candle in a row, but we have closed below the 8 simple moving average, which typically signals a correction down to the 34 exponential moving average, which is this red EMA band right here. Now, today that's sitting at around 13,000 points, which aligns with the bi-monthly 8 simple moving average I just mentioned moments ago. And this 55 simple moving average, this white moving average right here, is around 12,000 points, which would actually keep the NASDAQ above the macro 236, which is perfectly fine for maintaining structure on an even deeper pullback. So overall, this is bullish still. I'm very positive even with a correction. I'm just letting you know phase by phase what I'm seeing here. And it's important to note that if for whatever reason the NASDAQ corrects as low as the 55 simple on the monthly chart, it's ideal that it holds for overall bullish posture, and closing a monthly candle below the 55 is a lights out scenario. So that would not be good. But we've seen it happen at the end of last year, pivoting into Q1 of 2023, this whole moment where we were trading month after month on the 55 simple before a bounce. So it's perfectly fine if we were to go that low. Now, I'm personally not entertaining a correction lower than the 55 SMA at this time, especially moving into an election year. But I am very open-minded to a retest of the 34 EMA on the monthly chart. This could be completed before the end of this year. That would be around 13,000 points for the NASDAQ, or around a 9% correction from where we're currently trading. And if I had to nail down an exact time frame, so not only am I giving you the target, the percentage move, I will also tell you the time I'm expecting this to happen. It would be by November 24th until December 1st. So let's move over to the Dow chart, Dow Jones, and see what's happening over there. So we have a wolf cross coming in on this weekly, and I think that's very important to talk about. This is something that I've coined, but it's a typical TA setup. We have the 8 simple moving average and the 55 simple moving average. I call it a wolf cross whenever these cross over each other. This would be a bearish scenario. Having the 8 cross below the 55, that would be a wolf cross with downside implied, and that typically happens to be confirmed after we buy back into the cross. So I'll give you an idea here. It's kind of something like this. You see the 8 crosses below the 55. We sank low, but then we came back up into the 55 plus those rejections. That was a lower high, and that confirms the wolf cross has more downside implied. Now, we've had kickbacks on these wolf crosses. That's perfectly normal, especially when we're looking at weekly charts. You know, a lot of these indicators are lagging. That's why we're using a bunch of these different things in harmony to get the best, most, accurate outcome regarding our projections. So I just want to mention that we had a lot of volatility baked into this particular moment right here because we had the FOMC meeting coming up today. Markets get like this during this time. So we can see the Dow is very close to these 200s. This is the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average. And if we zoomed out to the 2016 market over here, that was an election year. And we see that in Q4 of 2015, we actually did swipe down into the 200 moving averages. And when we look at it over here, we can see we're super close to those 200s. Now, we had a bounce into the end of that year, and then we had one last correction throughout Q1 of the election year before this bullish W played out, and we just continued on up throughout the remainder of the trading year. This same setup also happened pretty much back in 2011. Again, pre-election year, we corrected into Q4, touched on the 200 moving average, then bounced and went up for the rest of the trading year. So we had the last 2 iterations of this perfectly synchronized. We also sort of had the same thing happen back in 07 into 08, but that's not the same environment. We had what was going on with the subprime mortgage crisis leading into this deeper correction. And then, of course, the time frame of the dot-com bubble. Again, these are totally different markets today. I know people want to compare, but you have to add in so many other things that are going on. And remember, the Fed can print and print and print, turn on the printing press and do whatever the hell they want. There's nothing real about this market at all. It's all fairy dust of belief. They ritualize the market accordingly. So even with this war narrative going on right now, the markets have been generally positive, and it goes to show you that the people who are running this market are just speculating, hoping that, we don't realize these patterns. Because once we do, that's where the real change happens in retail. And trust me, retail is far away from even coming close to accepting some of the things that we talk about in these videos. Most people just deny it. So consider yourself special, being open-minded to how this market actually operates, which is through Gematria, Numerology, Astrology. So I just want to consider these setups, and whether you're into decoding or not, you can't deny this backtest on the 200s right before the close of the pre-election year. So I'm open-minded to a correction on the NASDAQ, which would bring in the same sort of energy into the Dow, and we could look at the weekly chart on the Dow Jones to get to around 31,000 to 32,000, backtesting those 200 moving averages. And if we see a deeper correction, I'd suspect it would be around the 236, which if I was to open this up right now, you'd see it sitting here around 30,400. But again, this could all be bought back fairly quickly. So there you have it, around 31,000 to 32,000 points for the Dow, and between 12,000 to 13,000 points for the NASDAQ between November 24th and December 1st. And the S&P will of course follow it and bottom out at the same time with similar percentage moves to the Dow. Now, many of you want to know how this will translate over to the crypto market, of course. So now it's the perfect time to pivot over into the Bitcoin charts to get a general overview on the setup for the crypto market. And remember, I've been saying this for months now, that although I feel a further continuation of a correction is due for the indices, it doesn't necessarily mean it will affect crypto as dramatically as it did back in other stages of the cycle. We already had a huge correction across the entire crypto market, and during this rally over here that happened for the stock market from January at the start of the year all the way up until the summertime, we did not see as much of a bullish energy in crypto. So the stock market is correcting and crypto is holding up because everything is just in the process of balancing out. I've been saying this for a while now. So although I anticipate more downside for the indices over this month of November, I think it still turns out to be solid for Bitcoin and the overall crypto market because we already had 90% corrections, upwards of 95% corrections in a lot of the altcoins. We saw upwards of 80% corrections with ETH and Bitcoin, XRP. I mean, this market has already got hammered, and the buyback was not as epic that we saw on the indices regarding crypto. So we're just balancing right now, and it's really nice to see this playing out the way that we anticipated it months in advance. It had everything to do with the Jubilee year and the specific analysis based on the solar cycle that I've been telling everyone about here on this channel. So we're going to be going over to Bitcoin now and talking a little bit more about this solar cycle because I've been getting a lot of questions about it, and I feel today could be very helpful, although I've been really specific with you guys over the past 2 to 3 YouTube videos. So if you rewatch them now, you'll see kind of the theory behind how powerful solar and lunar eclipses are, specifically when we're in a solar cycle. So when we're in a solar cycle, which effectively started over here, we are powerful and positive usually with our solar eclipses overall, moving from solar eclipse to solar eclipse, and then the lunar eclipses are weaker. Meanwhile, when we're in a lunar cycle, which initiated over here in May of 2021, every single lunar eclipse is very bearish and very powerful against the market. That's why in 2021 through 2022, we saw what happened with Terra Luna failing on a lunar eclipse, and then we saw what happened with FTX failing on a lunar eclipse. Now that we're in a solar cycle, it's not going to be the same way with lunar eclipses. So we've been talking about this for a while now, but if you're new here to this channel, take notes on this. And I've been mapping out all the eclipses and the stages of the cycle for you, so you can just copy it and add it to your own charts. Now, I want to dial this whole thing in even more to the first new moon after the second solar eclipse of the solar cycle. So we've effectively moved through the second solar eclipse of our solar cycle, and I want to dial it into the first new moon after that. Now we're going to be going back to 2012. I'm going to open up the daily chart. I'm going to take off as much of this noise as possible so we only have the data that matters. So we're here at 2012. We have our second solar eclipse of the solar cycle. I'm going to be turning on my moon phases. Here would be your solar eclipse. Here would be your lunar eclipse. And then this would be the new moon that I'm talking about. We had about a 14% gain from this lunar eclipse to this solar, or to this new moon 17 days after. Now we're going to go to 2016. I'm going to zoom in. Here we have our lunar eclipse. Here we have our new moon. Neutral, but up 2% over the 15 days to the exact day of the new moon. By the way, in the 2012 cycle, we were up about a day after the new moon. This shows you the precision. Now we're going to go over to 2020, which would be effectively our last cycle. And we have right here the second solar eclipse. Here is your lunar eclipse that follows, and here is your new moon. Similar to the 2012 cycle, we had about 15% gain. But it came in earlier. It took about 9 days off the lunar eclipse, but when considering the following new moon, it was actually very similar to the 2016 cycle, about 2% up from the prior lunar eclipse following to this new moon. What this means in plain English is that essentially all iterations closed higher on the following new moon compared to the daily close on the lunar eclipses, and Bitcoin also closed higher from the lunar eclipse based into the next full moon. Remember, I gave you this warning last time. I told everyone in advance to expect us to close higher on the lunar eclipse than where we closed on the solar eclipse, and that's exactly how it went. This is not a joke. This is not woo-woo. This is how this market operates. So, again, I'm going to simplify this for everyone. Bitcoin is likely to close higher on this upcoming new moon on November 13th compared to the daily close on our lunar eclipse that just passed this weekend, which was between 34,000 and 34,500. Write a note. And it's also likely that Bitcoin closes on our next full moon higher than this price as well. So it's likely that whatever price we got on our new moon, our lunar eclipse, our next full moon, which is pretty much at the end of this month, we will be higher than $35,000, either 35 or higher on the monthly close of November. I'm spilling the beans here, giving you the specifics, the dates, everything. Now, it seems during this phase in the solar cycle, Bitcoin seems to move upwards of about 30%, and then it stalls out a little. And depending on how this upcoming ETF approval goes, we could be seeing Bitcoin actually hit 40K by the end of the year, even with a correction in the stock market as mentioned earlier. And here is the most important thing to keep in mind. What I was sharing before about how Bitcoin closes higher on the upcoming new moon compared to the prior lunar eclipse, which we already had, we were talking about candle closes on these specific dates. So as for what happens between these dates, that's what we need to consider for opportunities. Can we go down between now and then? Of course, that would be fantastic. So if the FOMC meeting today puts pressure on the traditional markets and that pressure comes into the Bitcoin realm, it could correct down to 33K, 32K, or even 31K. And it does not invalidate the fact that we'd still have almost 2 weeks to get bought back to that close above 34K on the new moon. And personally, I'd love for a swipe down to 32 Bitcoin because it'd give me another opportunity to accumulate more altcoins. So I'm just letting you know how all of this can go down this month. We have a lot that could change between this video posting and the end of the trading day. And with all iterations of the Bitcoin solar cycle closing higher on the full moon that follows the lunar eclipse, this gives me more confidence in my investment thesis to take action if we get any short-term pullbacks. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just being transparent about the moves I'm making, and I'm openly sharing my investment thesis with all of you. So This recent lunar eclipse closed at 34K Bitcoin. We should be closing off this month of November above 34,000. And I'm giving you this gnosis a month in advance with specific dates and specific targets, not only for crypto, but for the stock market as well. And you could write this all down and we'll check back in a month and see how it all goes. So now let's get into Ethereum and see the setup for ETH while Bitcoin dominance is at its highest in 2.5 years. And I make that comment because if we were to see a Bitcoin correction down to 32 or 31K, well, then it would hammer the alts and it would give a really solid buying opportunity for the altcoins. Again, a reminder, although discounted Bitcoin buying opportunities are coming to a conclusion based off my analysis, that does not mean it's over for the alts. There's plenty of more time to accumulate altcoins, especially for XRP investors. So this is I'm very optimistic about all of this. Let's get over to ETH and see what's going down. ETH getting back below 1800. We had a set of highs that got traded above, and that's really important to see. Not much of a back test down on them though to confirm this prior resistance effectively as a new support. So I want to see how that goes because my eyes would be on this level here at about 1730 ETH, $1,730 USD. We can see this M double top ish pattern and effectively getting stopped out back in these new moon highs of August. We are also just confirming lower lows and lower highs, excuse me. So we have here, this is the power of the solar cycle, by the way. This is when we moved into the solar cycle. You notice how Ethereum is making lower highs and lower lows over and over again, but Bitcoin is doing the opposite. This is what I taught everyone before we even moved into this stage of the cycle, that once we move into this solar eclipse of April 20th, it becomes the Bitcoin show. Bitcoin gains a ton of dominance, and every time it has a pullback, it hammers the alts. And again, it just provides opportunity. As Chief Wolf here, I'm not getting concerned about what the bulls and bears are up to. You know, don't be a bull, don't be a bear, be a wolf, follow the moon. That's going to help you see things clearer. And I think what's happening is sometimes I make these statements and people think that I'm against something. That's not it. We're neutral here. We're going down the middle path. We're taking the emotions out of this game so that we could be effective in our investment when it comes down time to planning our investment thesis or taking action based off of our investment thesis. That's what I really wanted to say. So we have another lower high. And I think this 382 could definitely be back tested if we're going to see a quick push down for Bitcoin. That'd probably need Bitcoin to get back to 33K. We could definitely see 1688 happening for ETH. I think that would be solid. And then we have generally this level around 1600. We could see a couple of rejections here. We see a test here that was a short-term support. And then we could see all of this here. Just a trading range that's horizontal, 1650. That would really be nice. And my last buying on ETH was right around here leading into the solar eclipse. So I got in at some pretty good prices. Really, really excited about those. I was also accumulating back in March too. So my position is in on ETH. I also share on my Patreon, patreon.com/watersabove for the mastermind community. I let everyone know exactly when I'm buying or selling. So I give that as updates, and that's a big perk for that membership if that's something you guys are interested in. Now, regarding upside, we would need ETH to break this 0.5 fib. That would probably need Bitcoin to get above 38K. So 36 to 38K, and I think we'd see ETH retesting the 0.5 fib. That's definitely possible before the end of this year, especially moving into Q1 of 2024. And I wouldn't be surprised if ETH mimics what Bitcoin has just done, which is coming back up to this major prior support trend line and getting rejected off of it. So that's kind of why my 40K Bitcoin idea before the end of 2024 is in play. And I would align that with the idea that a 2,400, 2,300 ETH is also possible. Again, solidifying the concept of getting a position built in some of these blue chips, you know? So that's enough on the analysis for that. Let's move over to XRP. And I gave a really important XRP update in my Patreon just this week. We have this horizontal resistance line that's been coming in since last September, effectively 400 days. We're starting to break that now after multiple higher lows. That's good. This is a sign of strength overall. But we are back testing a prior level that once we broke down through, that was a cratering, rejection coming right back to the 236 fib in the macro. Anyone who was following my channel back in May, June, April, you remember my call on seeing XRP get into the 80 to 90 cent range. That's exactly how it went down. And with this rejection and coming back, there was anticipation that maybe we could go a little bit lower into this like 42, 41 cent level. I'm not entirely sure how much liquidity scooped up on this scam wick over here from the middle of August, but we only got 2 back tests right about the 236 fib, and it's been holding pretty strong since. So I want to see, will Bitcoin having a short-term correction bring any pressure into XRP, or is this just it? Is XRP in its process of full-blown recovery? And if you watched my last interview that I did with the Bearable Bull, shout out to the Bearable Bull, I talked to him about this idea of a 70 cent XRP by the end of the year, and how about March of 2024 is when it's blast off time for XRP. So for me and my investment thesis, I don't care if I'm getting in at 50 cents, 60 cents, 70 cents. That doesn't matter, because we're talking about double digits on XRP in 2024. So there's no reason to pull out your hair over the minutia, think long term. So we're gravitating back into the 60 cent level. That doesn't really mean much yet because it's just another lower high. We want to be seeing $1 plus, and in the meantime, anything below 75 cents, this 0.5 fib, is still a pretty lucrative buying opportunity. So any pullbacks, I would suspect somewhere around 54 would make sense structurally. And then we have, regarding trading volume, somewhere around 47 cents to as low as 45 cents. That would be a pretty dramatic correction at this time. For XRP, that would be a 20+% correction. That wouldn't be weird though, as an altcoin. That kind of stuff happens, especially when Bitcoin has this much dominance, but I wouldn't be waiting on that. Personally, if I'm seeing anything in the 50 cent range, I'd be scooping that up. And when I say 50 cent range, I mean between 50 cents and somewhere around, 57, 58, pretty much where we're at right now. So I'm going to leave it at that. We do have a lot of opportunities still, regardless of what's happening in the Bitcoin solar cycle. And I still feel generally pretty bullish on Bitcoin, even if we were to have a deeper correction in the stock market. We'll see how today's FOMC meeting goes. They might hold off and things might cure into the middle of next month, which would be the next FOMC meeting sometime before the holidays. I'm not too sure that it's going to play out that way in regards to just more upside for the stock market. I believe that the stock market top is in, and it's probably in going until late next year. But crypto, it's in a different phase. Crypto could definitely have a lot more bullish momentum because of what I explained earlier, and I'll leave it at that. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day in the Matrix. Appreciate anyone who signs up to the Mastermind community membership. Looking forward to getting to know you. Much love.